One of the things I was just talking about, obviously, at the top of the show was reparations. And yesterday, of course, were the hearings, which were fascinating. You had 2 days ago Mitch McConnell give a press conference talking about how reparations were a bad idea, and it's 150 years ago, and America's always improving, but we can't do anything about it.
First time I've even heard him say the word reparations, though. Like my entire life, like that he's even having to talk about it, I think shows that the issue has moved forward in a way that I didn't even expect. Like, many of us, I didn't think that reparations were dead, but I also didn't think Mitch McConnell would have to talk about it.
Right.
And so, it shows that it's being pushed forward.
Absolutely. That's an argument for the bill itself, right? That America's being forced to talk about it. Obviously, Sheila Jackson Lee putting forth the bill, Cory Booker attempting to do something similar in the Senate. I guess did y'all get to see much of the hearings?
Yes, well, I mean, especially Ta-Nehisi's entire read of the entire speech that Mitch McConnell had. It was poetic, it was poignant, it was beautiful, it was important, and he broke down everything that Black people have gone through since we were brought here, enslaved here, and why exactly we deserve reparations.
Yeah, I think
that was great.
Can we take I want people to see just a little clip of it and then come back and see.
Enslavement is theft. 250 years, Black people had the fruits of their labor stolen from them. We don't often think about Jim Crow and the era of segregation as theft, but it's theft too. If I agree to pay taxes, if I agree to fealty to a government, and you give me a different level of resources out of that tax pool, if you've given me a different level of protection, you have effectively stolen from me.
Wow.
It's just,
I love that, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad that we're fighting for reparations, but to me, I just see a very vague outline of what could happen. I think we know what the end goal is and what we want, but I feel like the steps to get in there, we're gonna have to jump through a lot of hoops because they gotta figure out who gets them first, who gets them. If you're Black, if you're white, but you're part Black, what does that look like for all people?
Well, I think that's why this type of hearing at least moves the conversation forward, and that hearing is not necessarily representative of all the work that's gone in behind the scenes to actually break the issue down. And the thing is, we can't say that because something is hard, it shouldn't be done. Even that's what I heard from Mitch McConnell was saying, like, how do we do it? And we can break it down. There are lots of ways to do it.
Do you think we'll get it in our lifetime? Like, if they pass it, all goes well, they pass it, do you think we'll be beneficiaries of reparations?
I think it's possible. I mean, for me, the radical imagination has to get invoked, right? We have to be able to imagine a world that's not yet. If you would have asked me 20 years ago if gay marriage was something we could have imagined in our lifetime, I may have said no. Right, or at least a whole bunch of people would have said.
Or even a Black president.
A Black president.
I don't even think 20 years ago people were thinking about the possibility of Barack and Michelle Obama.
20 years ago, we were thinking like that was like space age.
Right.
We would all be old when that would happen.
Right.
So that is a good point. Maybe.
Right. You just need the political will.
Right.
You just need the political will, and I think we'll get there at some point. But we have to be committed, one, to believing that we deserve a reparations.
Absolutely.
And I don't mean you, but I mean getting the general public, because there's still this idea from white people, many white Americans. If you look at the polls, I didn't enslave anybody, therefore I don't deserve.
Well, that's why Ta-Nehisi's comments were so important. That's why his original piece in The Atlantic was so important. It's not just about slavery. Like, reparations are necessary for stuff that literally happened yesterday.
Right.
He's talking about loan discrimination, housing discrimination. Like, we're talking about police brutality and mass incarceration. Like, this is not just the conversation about slavery. It is about slavery, but it's also about everything that happened every day up until right now. And so he illuminated that in a way that elevated the quality of that hearing, because parts of the hearing were a mess.
Which parts? I was curious to know.
Well, I think it even gets to what you were saying, is that a lot of it was just nebulous and vague, and he brought a lot of specificity to the entire conversation. And he just elevated the quality of it. And because it's a congressional hearing, anybody is allowed to invite whoever they want. So some people who were speaking weren't experts.
Right,
I went through this on Twitter yesterday because people were like, "Wow, you should have been." I was like, "Well, I'm not an expert on that."
Right.
And they were like, "Well, what difference is that?" Well, it makes a big difference. I could give general claims about why reparations make sense, but I think the thing that's going to make this make sense and get to where you're talking about is when you have the economists, when you have the historians, when you have the people who have expertise in this area that can connect those dots for us, and we have to include people from different camps. You have everything from NCOBRA, which has been a long-standing reparations group, over to the ADOS movement, which is problematic in a lot of ways, but is part of this conversation as well. And we have to be able to say all these groups have to come together and have some piece of the conversation. And I'm talking about the experts of those groups.
Right.
But I think, honestly, I feel like the most important feeling that I have about reparations is that it will equal the playing field, like wealth-wise. Like literally, Thomas said, well, hopefully, it'll give some more leeway because literally the families that still, the richest white families, they made money off of the backs of slaves. Like, this is long, long, long money. And so we came here with nothing. And then you said, Juneteenth, you're finally free, congratulations. And we just celebrated it. And it was like, okay, go, figure it out. With
You're free,
$0
but not equal.
or nothing. So we literally came from nothing. We created something. But imagine if we got just some money that would help us.
I would love it.
Something.
I would love it. I want to be able to visualize a proper plan because if we're talking about now we're talking about all black people who have been marginalized even from yesterday. Does that include my Caribbean brothers and sisters?
Well, see, that's the thing. There are rich conversations that have already taken place that say this percentage of whatever a reparations plan would be, this percentage goes to African descendants of slaves. This percentage goes to African immigrants in America, this percent, there are those types of plans that exist. Yesterday wasn't necessarily the day to drop the plan on the table, but Ta-Nehisi, I think, has made himself probably the nation's spokesperson. For when we think reparations, he has articulated it so well in a way that has been relatable but revolutionary, which is hard to do. To make a hard-edged idea readable and understandable to people. And so those plans are out there. They just haven't gotten a lot of mainstream